Thank you for tuning in to Entertain the Geeky, your source for nerd news.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Jason back at you with more nerd news. So we're gonna... An Avengers Infinity War trailer dropped, and even though my friend here refuses to watch trailers...
I do that.
This is Joe, by the way. Joe's back with us here. We kind of wanted to go through and talk about just the phases of the MCU and talk about what we thought about the particular phases in relation to others. So we're going to go through phase one in this episode, and then we'll have some subsequent episodes over the next couple of weeks that we'll get into phase 2 and 3. So starting phase 1, I mean, it all started with Iron Man on way back in May of 2008. That's how long it's been.
Yeah. Seems like a million years ago.
Yeah.
Can't even say I was in high school at the time, but I was only 18 at the time.
Man, I'm old.
Yeah,
I was all adulthood by the time Iron Man came out.
I mean, I wasn't in school anymore. I was living on my own and had like a full-time job. I was an adult when it appeared.
All right. Well, I mean, it's still going back, looking at here, we're about to get to Infinity War, going way, way back to 2008, starting with Iron Man. I honestly think they couldn't have started off on a better foot, right?
No, they really couldn't have. I mean,
they
picked a good character, had a really good script, picked the perfect person to play that character. Because, I mean, like, RDJ's redemption line in real life is pretty similar to Tony Stark's. It's true.
Like, I mean, at the time, he was definitely not a guy that was making money.
No, he was born into, this certain family as a prodigy, and then drugs and alcohol.
Sure.
Like, he was Tony Stark.
Sure.
But no, it was perfect.
I mean,
for the time.
Yeah, like, and if you're a fan of Iron Man as a character and you've been following Iron Man for years, I mean, this story was the same story. The only difference in the story was that it was Iraq instead of Vietnam.
Yeah. They just
otherwise
updated it for current events.
Right, because even the character who helps him build the armor, Yinsen, the man's name in the original series was Yinsen. I don't think it was his last name. I think it was like his first name or something.
I don't know.
Right, I think I talked about this on the MCU perspective episode we did a while ago. But there was definitely a Yinsen. There was definitely a tragic death that changed Tony's perspective on this whole thing. There was definitely enemies of the United States with Stark Industries weapons.
Right.
Being sold by the company under the table.
Of course.
So, like, all of it fell into place really, really well. And especially, like I said, if you know that origin story, I mean, you were sitting down and just reliving it in a modern-day setting.
Yeah.
It was great.
The visuals were fantastic. The suit looked great.
Oh, I mean, the suit is by far the best part. When you first see that, even just the Mark II, the silver one, when he finally gets it looking like an Iron Tech armor, is beautiful to see assembled and then to see him take it out and fly around in it. That was great.
It was definitely a big achievement for comic book movies and comic book fans the world across.
Yeah, I mean, and it definitely, laid some of the groundwork. Obviously, at that time, they didn't realize that this would become so big. How could you? You never know what the first movie's going to do.
I mean, they definitely had plans for it.
I mean, I think at that point, though,
we poked at it just a little.
Sure, but at that point, it's just an Easter egg. I mean, Jon Favreau recently said in an interview that having Samuel L. Jackson come on and play Nick Fury was just kind of a joke. Like, he was just having fun with comic fans.
Yeah. Which, like, don't get me wrong, like, absolutely, that's like kind of thing like you throw in there for funsies. Like, oh, cool, maybe it'll turn into something. Like, for sure they were planting a seed, but they had no idea that would actually grow into this fucking vicious thing that we have now.
Yeah, I mean, how could you have known that?
Oh, God.
There's just no way.
Nobody would have predicted that. I don't care how good a stock market predictor you are.
Right. But so, the groundwork gets laid. We get introduced to Phil Coulson of the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division.
We're working on an acronym.
That was great. That was such a great joke.
Yeah, it was.
Honestly, the fact that they're working on it, like, how did somebody looking at that not immediately say S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Right. Yeah. No, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there was, like, a backstory of, like, some intern who was just like, you guys are idiots. Right. But the email never got to, like, the director for like 6 months kind of situation, going through the chain of command correctly. Got lost in the office twice. Somebody spilled coffee on the memo.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously we get introduced to S.H.I.E.L.D. right away.
Right.
And then introduced to Nick Fury. Even though it was a fun little nod to the comics, we still get introduced to the director and, you know, at the time with the Ultimate Universe and, you know, coming out shortly before that and just basically making Nick Fury Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, you know, the art of Brian Hitch from that original Ultimates run. He's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely, so, Hitch was just like, I'm going to make Samuel L. Jackson be a superhero now.
Right. They even have a moment in that comic where they talk about who should play them in a movie.
Right.
And when they get to Fury, he says, there's no one else but Samuel L. Jackson.
No, and luckily the man was available and willing. Because, thank God.
I
can't imagine what we would have done with an MCU with anybody else playing Nick Fury.
Sure. But I guarantee you the phone call went something like, hey, Nick, it's John. I would love you to come shoot a single scene for a day and play Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was probably like, yeah. Right. I'm on it.
I think they argued about which eye to put the eye patch on.
I mean, no, the eye has to be...
It doesn't have to be.
Yes.
But I promise you, if Samuel... Like, it had to be, but if Samuel L. Jackson came in and was like, no, I want to put it on my other one. Like, you let that man put it on whatever eye he wants to.
Samuel L. Jackson is a comic fan.
Well, that's fair.
That is something he's talked about many times, which I'm sure was another reason he was probably excited to come play a character like that.
Right.
But he would be the guy that would be adamant about it. It goes on this side.
Nick Fury.
Yeah. But so, obviously, Iron Man was laying the groundwork, and later that same year, they released Incredible Hulk, which was, June? Yeah, June of 2008.
Yeah,
they released Incredible Hulk.
Summer film, as it were.
Yeah. And I think Incredible Hulk takes a lot of flack. I don't think it's a bad Hulk movie. I think it's far better than any other thing we'd seen with Hulk up to that point.
Well, I mean, you have it comparatively against, who was it?
Ang Lee. Hulk.
Yeah, like... How hard is it really to do better than that?
I mean, it's not, but it's also hard to shake the silliness of the Hulk TV show.
That's fair.
Because, don't get me wrong, I like the Hulk TV show. I think the Hulk TV show was a fine TV show for its time. But when you look at it comparatively, it is quite silly.
Right. No, absolutely.
Kind of campy and a little dated.
Yeah.
So you have
fits right up there with, like, Adam West Batman.
Right.
It's just kind of goofy.
It had a place in its time, but it doesn't, looking back, it doesn't reflect well, on the character.
No.
So I think they had their work cut out for them in trying to do something that would bring people back in after the god-awful Ang Lee Hulk movie and shake the silliness of the television show. Right. And I think they succeeded. I mean,
it definitely wasn't bad. My main problem with it still has always been, I'm just not that big of a Hulk fan.
Sure.
Which is a personal thing, and that's not a reason to not watch it.
Subjective, yeah.
But, like, also just, I don't believe in Edward Norton as Bruce Banner. Like, he just doesn't do it for me as Bruce Banner.
I guess.
And I don't know if that's because of, like, the various roles I've seen him play before that, or what. But I don't know. He just doesn't come across very Bruce Banner-y to me.
Sure.
Like, and especially nowhere near, like, what Mark Ruffalo does now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mark Ruffalo's definitely solidified himself as the Hulk.
But that doesn't make it a bad film, specifically.
And honestly, I thought the animation looked good.
Yeah. No, the visuals, especially, like, how they made the Hulk himself look, like, they did a really good job. The fight scene in Harlem, fantastic.
Yeah. And he's not like he's not 20 feet tall. He's just a little bit taller than a tall guy. You know what I mean? He turns into a big green rage monster, but it doesn't make him, a mountain.
Right. No. He's not a literal, like, Titanic giant by any means.
No, not at all.
He's big, but he's not that big.
No. So I think the movie works well. I mean, I agree with you. Maybe Edward Norton was a weird choice, and obviously it's a good thing he didn't come back because we wouldn't have got Mark Ruffalo, who's done such amazing things with the role. Yeah. But I think we got General Ross, who was played by I'm spacing that guy's name.
I don't remember. Honestly, I haven't watched that movie since, like, 2011?
Right. It's been a while.
It's been a hot minute.
But he gets to come back around in Civil War. And, and then we get a real solid connection back to Hulk.
Right.
Hulk also expanded on the S.H.I.E.L.D. thing from the first movie, so the general trying to capture Hulk was using S.H.I.E.L.D. tech.
Right.
And it's clearly shown that it's S.H.I.E.L.D. tech. You know? They used the S.H.I.E.L.D. database to track him down, you know what I mean? So they're even though the movie's not the best movie that the MCU has produced, it still does a lot to build the world. And continue building on what they started with Iron Man. And then we even get Tony Stark popping in at the end with a little cameo.
Yeah.
Just to show that it's all connected.
Yeah.
Which
just to remind us.
Yep.
He's here.
Yep. Well, and because they filmed those movies simultaneously, it was probably not that hard to be like, hey, come over to this set today. We're going to film this thing real quick with this guy.
They probably film it across the lot from each other. No problem.
Yeah. So then obviously we move on. You know, Iron Man was so successful for them, and obviously Incredible Hulk was not as successful for them.
Right.
So the following year, they immediately fast-tracked the sequel to Iron Man and did Iron Man 2.
Yeah, yeah. They super just jumped onto...
Actually, no, I'm wrong. They did not do that the following year. They did that the year after.
Okay.
They waited a whole year between Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2.
Okay.
So we didn't get Iron Man 2 until May of 2010.
Okay.
Right?
Was it that long? Wow.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I took these dates right from the internet.
I mean, that's... you can always believe whatever you read on the internet. You know, think about it. Yeah. I mean, which makes sense because, like, the only reason they're so hardcore tracked is because it's become this monstrous thing now. But like back then, they weren't. Yeah. So like sequels didn't just like pop out hardcore like that.
It was just like, oh hey, we get announced in 2009. In 2010, we're going to see a sequel to Iron Man. Cool, awesome. I can't wait to see a trailer for that. You know. But
I think most people think it's probably the weakest of the Iron Man films.
It may be the weakest of the MCU films. It's definitely down at the bottom of the list for MCU films.
I still don't think it's as bad as it took took way more flack than it deserved, in my opinion.
I think it did great things. I like Justin Hammer. I thought that Sam Rockwell was amazing. Yeah. As this young, confident, because Justin Hammer at that point has always been an old man. Yeah. Right? But we put in Sam Rockwell, who's not a young man, but he's not an old man either. No, he's middle-aged.
He had a very youthful energy and was like, he was kind of like the dark reflection of what Tony was more like before the cave. Right. For sure, which is, I think, a big part of why he worked so well in that film.
Like, Rockwell's who Tony would have become.
Yeah.
Tony was.
Yeah, absolutely. He was super that guy.
I wouldn't be surprised if before all of this went down, they were friends or at least business partners in some ventures. You know what I mean? Because while Hammer Industries gets no respect from Tony, it definitely gets respect from the government.
Well, that's fair. I mean? Yeah.
So I feel like at some point they cross paths.
Probably. I mean, I'm sure they've run into each other a lot. But I mean, and then, what is his name? The hulking Russian dude.
Oh, Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, Mickey Rourke was fantastic.
Yeah, Whiplash. Ivan Vanko. Yeah, was his character's name.
Like, granted, I've never seen him do anything I didn't like so far. Like, even in films that weren't that great, like, he's still real good in it.
That was at the time when Mickey Rourke kind of lost his mind and changed his whole look and persona.
Whatever. I liked it.
Well, so no, I agree with you. It worked for Ivan Vanko. It didn't work for some other movies that I saw Mickey Rourke in the subsequent years where I was just like, I'm not really sure what you're doing here.
Right. No, that's fair.
It worked for Ivan Vanko as the crazy Russian tattooed guy, though.
Yeah. No, he was fantastic. And honestly, like, the whole escape from prison scene is still one of my favorite scenes in that whole film.
Yeah, I mean...
It's kind of fantastic. Just the over-the-shoulder camera, like, watch him be an asshole.
Right. It comes right out of, like, a spy movie, where they're springing some prisoner of war.
Yeah. There's a key in the egg, and a knife in the cake.
Right, and the mashed potatoes is the plastic explosives. Like,
yes, absolutely.
There's just great things.
Absolutely. All it was missing was like a fake mustache hidden in the Jello.
Right. Obviously, you know, it furthered the kind of narrative, and we had more S.H.I.E.L.D., we had more Coulson, we had more Fury, we got introduced to Black Widow. Yeah. As a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent for the first time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it stands out. I think it catches a lot of flack, but I think it stands out for the same reason we were talking earlier about Avengers Age of Ultron, kind of just being that movie in the middle.
Right.
It has to tell a story and build the world.
Right.
I think by that point with the success, and I don't want to say it was super successful, but they had definitely seen success from Iron Man and Incredible Hulk. They were making money. They had the money to fund another film. And they really wanted to go with Iron Man because obviously that was the one that made them, the most money. Yeah. But I think it had to be, it had to be that movie in the middle, right? Where it was building on something that was clearly successful and trying to tell its own story. So it suffers a little bit.
Now, the only thing I was mad about was that I never got a cool statue of Tony Stark eating donuts inside of the giant donut. Like, I needed that on my shelf, and nobody gave me one.
That would have been good.
And I'm still a little upset about it. So, like, I don't know, Sideshow, if you're listening, and if you could get on that, that'd be great.
That would be a great statue.
It would be fantastic statue.
Just the donut, the Tony's Donuts.
Yeah, Tony's Donuts with
Tony sitting in the donut eating donuts.
Yes. I need that as a statue.
That would be good.
Look fantastic on my mantle.
Yeah. So obviously, the second movie expanded a little bit. We had our first recasting in the second movie because obviously, Rhodey, who was played by Terrence Howard in the first movie, got replaced by what's that guy's name? Don Cheadle.
Yeah,
got replaced by Don Cheadle in the sequel,
which I was initially a little upset about just because I really liked Terrence Howard. I thought he was fantastic in the first one, and it sucked to not have him back. But Don Cheadle's been great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Great as War Machine ever since, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got our first recasting with that, and then we had, the little funny little scene where he steals one of the suits and they get into the little fight in the suits.
Yeah.
Which still doesn't make any sense to me. And Marvel, I think has probably fielded this question more times than they want to count.
Probably.
But, why would the suit that's just sitting there on display have an arc reactor in it when the arc reactor's in Tony?
It's a real good question.
Right?
It's one of those movie plot things that you let the suspension of disbelief exist.
I guess,
For sure.
But if you wanted to tell me that the reason those are powered up is because he has no arc reactor anymore, that would have been more appropriate. You know what I mean? But he has the power that powers it is in him.
Right.
So they don't need to sit there with power.
Right.
That never made any sense to me.
Yeah.
But he steals the
especially when one of the subplots is he's dying because the power source that's in him is killing him.
Right.
Yeah.
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 But he steals the suit, and then we get War Machine was born out of that with Hammer coming to weaponize the Iron Tech armor, which leads to the big showdown at the end. Which obviously at the time we didn't know this. I think it's great that it was confirmed, and they said, "Sure, look at that. The timeline actually fit. We're going to do it that way." Is the little kid at the Stark Expo that's
Peter
actually
Parker.
Peter?
Yeah, I love every part about that. Headcanon accepted, bro.
Yeah. So if you're unfamiliar, there's a scene in Iron Man 2 where the robot army that was created by Ivan Vanko is destroying the Stark Expo, and a little kid dressed in an Iron Man costume with a little fake repulsor on his hand goes to shoot one of the robots. Yeah, and Iron Man jumps in, destroys the robot, and gives a "nice job, kid," and then flies off. Yeah, that kid is Peter.
Yeah. It's official canon, though. That's Peter Parker.
Which, how fantastic is that?
Right.
Years and years before they ever knew this was going to be successful, before they ever knew Peter Parker was going to return.
It's kind of brilliant, really. I love every part about it.
So then, obviously, we go into Thor the following year, Thor and Captain America.
That was the one I was most excited about.
Yeah, 2011.
Out of the Avengers, Thor's always been kind of my guy and my favorite, and I blame, I've got a whole Celtic and Norwegian Nordic ancestry thing. Yeah. So been into myths and mythology forever. I've got the Icelandic sagas memorized. So getting Thor on screen was fantastic. Yeah. I've never heard of this Australian they picked for him, but he was big. He was blonde. He was fantastic. The trailer had a little bit of his fight scene when he's going through the E.T. hut built thing, government thing. Oh yeah. For the hammer, he got a taste of that, and I was just yes.
Yeah, that was.
I was super pumped for that since we got that after credit scene of Coulson in the desert with the fucking hammer. Yeah, stuck in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah,
super pumped for Thor.
They built to Thor with their little after credit scene with Coulson. And yeah, I mean, it gets a lot of flack too, but I don't think it's a bad movie.
No.
I think it was a perfect introduction for Thor.
It is. Honestly, like, I don't think we would have gotten Guardians as well in the future if we didn't get Thor. Because Guardians definitely took from and learned from the Thor movies on what you can do with an MCU movie, like, in outer space.
Sure, but I mean, most of the time spent with Thor takes place on Earth.
Well, that's fair.
We get the taste of the fact that this is a larger universe and the cosmos have more species and things living in them, but it really is about, I think, Thor and Jane and how their relationship builds and how she helps him understand how to have humility and be worthy of his power again.
Now, I'm just dealing with being on Earth and watching him deal with not having powers was kind of the greatest thing in the world. Like, how dare you touch the son of Odin? And then they knock him out. And
yeah. So yeah, they definitely got humor out of the fact that he's basically a caveman to these people.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand
what is this
their
beverage?
customs.
Coffee? I like it. Another.
Yeah. He doesn't understand their customs. Doesn't understand how the world works. How Midgard works really at all.
No, it was very fantastic.
The great scene in the pet store with I need a horse. We don't sell those, just birds and lizards and stuff. Well, then I need one of those large enough to ride.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that would be a thing that exists in Asgard, right? Like, I could ride a bird into battle.
Right.
I could ride a giant lizard into battle.
No, I think still, though, one of my favorite thing to come out of his mouth is when he first meets Agent Coulson, and he calls him Son of Cole.
Oh, Son of Cole.
The Son of Cole is still the greatest part of that.
Odin's son.
Yeah.
Coulson. Yeah, you're Son of Cole.
Son of Cole.
It's probably the first person he thinks he can relate to on this planet.
Right.
Yeah, it was great. The whole scene of him trying to reclaim the hammer. We get Hawkeye.
Yeah.
For the first time.
I was so stoked about that. It wasn't nearly as much as I wanted.
No.
At all.
But seeing someone reach for a sniper rifle and then immediately say nope and reach for a bow, I was just like, oh my god, that's Hawkeye.
Yeah, I was just stoked they were putting him in something. Right. Jeremy Renner's real good.
He also gets a great line where he's obviously watching the fight, and Coulson wants to find out what's going on and why this man is here, this mysterious man, who keeps coming after him. And you get a great line out of Jeremy Renner where he's about to pick up the hammer, and Jeremy Renner just says, "Do you want me to take the shot? Because I'm starting to root for this guy."
Yeah.
Right? Like,
no, that was the perfect preview of Hawkeye's character for the rest of the MCU films. It was 100% perfect.
Like, I work for S.H.I.E.L.D.
He's not deviated from that at all.
No, like, I work for S.H.I.E.L.D., but I don't work for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
I work for me.
They pay me?
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely think it was cool to see these, like Black Widow and Hawkeye getting dropped in right before our crossover so that we could have a few more Avengers on the team.
Right.
And it made sense that they were S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
Yeah.
That was how they did it in the Ultimate Universe. It just made sense that they
it's
the story.
It's definitely one of
S.H.I.E.L.D.
the easiest ways to drop them in.
Yep.
Especially with Black Widow being like the sleeper agent to watch Tony.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a better way to put her in.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, very, very genius move on their part. And then they took us back to the past that year also with Captain America, the First Avenger.
Man, yes.
I think it's still one of my top 5 movies.
Absolutely.
As a period piece
for
a World War II story. Yeah. Integrated Hydra in. It was great. Everything about it
I think honestly one of my biggest draws to it was like I wasn't super invested yet just because like I really loved Captain America, and Chris Evans I had only seen as like Johnny Storm and then the fake version of Freddie Prinze Jr. in Not Another Teen Movie. Like that was my only experience with Chris Evans so far. So like I had real trouble picturing him, but 5 minutes on screen, he was.
He's the only guy.
Yeah, no, like I was arguing with my brother for like a good couple weeks after that one of like who was more the character correctly, Robert Downey as Tony or
Chris Evans as Cap.
Yeah, like, and that argument never ended.
Yeah.
And I mean, to this day, still, like, if you got Chris Evans as Captain America to run for president, I think we'd all vote for him.
I would.
8 years. 8 years of Captain America running the country.
But yeah, and I think that's, at the time we knew Robert Downey Jr. was great and he was going to be a big part of this. Yeah. But obviously getting getting Chris Evans as Captain America, they found the exact perfect match for Tony.
They did.
For Robert Downey Jr.'s version of Tony and Chris Evans, they are the leading men in this universe.
Absolutely.
Right? So absolutely they got two of the best guys that could play off each other really well. And they just got the characters.
Yeah.
They just understood who these guys were.
Yeah. No, they are perfect for their characters. Yeah. They are definitely like the dichotomy of the group. They make or break the group.
Right. Also,
for damn sure.
I still say seeing Chris Evans' head on a little skinny guy's body was one of the best special effects I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, dude, I was watching.
It doesn't even read as a special effect.
No, I was watching that movie like 2 weeks ago because I was watching all three of the Cat films again. And like, yeah, like it just looks like he's a little guy.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't tell that's a special effect.
Yeah, no, that
was perfect.
It's very smooth.
How they made his face look so gaunt. Because it's clearly Chris Evans' face, but it's not Chris Evans' face.
Did you know the saddest part about rewatching those, though? Is seeing, like, Bucky still have hope and joy in his face.
Oh, man.
Like, that's...
Before he became the brooding depressed guy that we know now.
Yeah, like, no, like, seeing him all joyful and shit, like, and just knowing that that's just going to be ripped away, like his arm, in a minute.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I remember sitting in the theater watching that movie. Rick Tess was sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
And if you guys are unfamiliar, Rick Tess used to be the manager of the fantasy shop in Florissant before John and then before myself. And he was sitting in the theater next to me, and when Bucky fell from the train, he just leaned over and kind of nudged me and went, "Winter Soldier!" And I was just like, duh, Rick. Duh. Like, shh. Duh.
But I mean, and then picking... what's his name? Hugo Weaving.
Oh.
For Red Skull.
The man of sci-fi and fantasy?
Yeah, the king of nerds at this point.
At that point he was.
Like, he was Agent Smith.
He was Elrond.
He was Elrond. Like, he was the V.
Oh, yeah, he was V.
Yeah, he was V.
For Vendetta, yeah.
Like, you picked the king of the nerds to play this bombastic... And he's perfect in that he's, like, smooth.
Yeah.
And... like, you almost want to believe him, just because, like, he's not acting just straight evil or maniacal. Like, he's smooth. He's meticulous.
Yeah, he turns in a very powerful performance. And then Toby Huss as Zola, was just who could have done that better? No one. No one could have done that. Toby Huss was amazing. I loved him. I mean, as Zola.
Yeah.
And I love that his part continued to grow. He got a bigger role in the shaping of the MCU. Yeah. I think that was fantastic. Oh, man. We'll talk about that in the next time
for sure.
we sit down and we talk about Phase 2, because that's in Phase 2.
Yeah.
No,
it was fantastic. My only disappointment is we haven't gotten Red Skull back, and I've been waiting for that forever. I remain firm that he didn't die.
No, he gets taken away by the Tesseract.
Exactly.
The Tesseract is the space Infinity Stone.
Right, and
it shoots him somewhere in space.
I need him brought back.
Sure.
I just need him to show up. Like, if that's the best kept secret out of Infinity War that we get, like, that fucking Red Skull shows up, it'd be the greatest thing ever.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I doubt it. I super
really
doubt
do
it.
Doubt it. Yeah.
I someday need Red Skull to come back.
Well, but see,
and I get it if, like, part of it is, like, Hugo Weaving's busy and can't or won't.
Well, the nature of their storytelling, you know, especially if you use the Ultimate Universe as a guide, because the Red Skull in the Ultimate Universe in the present day was a man who was so fanatically obsessed with who the World War II era Red Skull was that he literally slices off his own face.
Yeah.
And becomes the new Red Skull.
Right.
And just tries to evince this guy's, you know, power and ideology and Hydra. And it was fantastic. So you could move forward with a Red Skull story without Hugo Weaving.
This is true.
And I think if you get Bucky to pick up the shield and he's going to be the new Captain America, that's absolutely a story you could pursue within that narrative.
Absolutely.
Right?
Which is something I really want to happen.
Cap needs a Red Skull, so use the crazy story of this fanatical, obsessed, superpowered guy who just cuts his own face off and becomes the Red Skull.
Yeah. No, I need Bucky as Cap. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want Chris Evans to go anywhere, but at the same time, I need my Captain America Winter Soldier.
Yeah. No, I agree. So obviously, you know, the movie ends where it should end, with Cap getting frozen and getting woke up by Nick Fury in the 20th century.
Watching that the end scene with him waking up 72 years later and just being like, I had a date. Like, oh.
It's the best line to go out on.
It is.
Of
it's
any
so
movie
good.
so far.
It hurts so much just to think about. Like,
what's wrong?
That poor bastard.
I had a date.
Yeah. Like,
never had a date before in his life.
I know.
I had a date.
I know.
70 years later, you can't have that date now. He's late.
He's
way late.
A little bit.
And then the post-credit scene for Captain America was just a preview for Avengers.
Yes, it was.
There was no, like, we're going to set it up. No, like, here's just the trailer. Here's the first trailer for Avengers.
Enjoy.
Which, obviously, I mean, sitting in the theater, it just blew our minds.
Yeah. I waited a long time to watch that one, too, because when it came out, at that point, like, me and my brother had been watching them because, you know, we were each other's comic fans.
Sure.
And at the time, he was in Afghanistan. Okay. So I waited until he came home to see that movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And the first day we went, and at this point, they were only having like one showing a day kind of situation. Like that's how long it had been. And the first day we went, it screwed up. Like the film. The film blacked out right when they all come together during the end fight scene. Like, and everybody was fucking pissed.
Yeah, I mean, I was mad.
And my brother just went into like full on rage mode because he'd been like 3 days fresh off a battlefield.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was not happy.
That's so. Also, he's watching a war movie too. That's just no good.
Yeah, he was not happy. He's not happy at all. But we went back the second day for free.
Nice.
With you know some free sodas and popcorn.
Nice.
and it worked. Oh man, it was fantastic. And I was okay with the fact I waited because it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth the wait for damn sure.
And then absolutely, you know, the following year, May of 2012, we got Avengers. Our first crossover, our first attempt to see if this could be a thing. Right? Like, I mean, Avengers, it all hinged on Avengers' success. It really did. Can this be a thing? Will these characters work together well?
Right.
And do we have the right story to tell a good, you know, tale of them? Right. And there was just, you know, Joss Whedon was brought in to direct the film. Mm-hmm. He'd also been working with them for a little while up to that point as part of their committee that was kind of helping direct the movies. Yeah. So, I mean, it was perfect. I think it's still one of the best superhero team movies they've ever made.
It's one of the greatest comic book films of all time, and will be for a very long time, in my opinion. Yeah, like everybody looked great. The script was fantastic.
The only person who didn't look great was Captain America. Let's be honest. The modern Cap costume was silly.
The modern Cap costume was a little goofy.
He was wearing the pansy red
honestly,
booties.
I've always had my in-canon headcanon theory of like him trying to have like this retro callback, but like it's a 50s guy, like, or not even like a 30s and 40s guy, like trying to make a modernized thing. Like, so yeah. I mean, I guess helped with the design, especially.
He didn't, though. Coulson did.
I'm just going to assume that he did, though.
No, but I mean, Coulson did. He tells us he did.
That's fair. But I mean, like, of course Coulson designed it poorly. Look at his fucking playing cards from when Cap was just going around getting war bonds.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
Kind of like what that suit was, basically. I'm almost surprised they didn't like try to refit his shield so it would be the old shield shape.
Right. But it all comes together well. I mean, and I think, you know, obviously bringing in Loki as the villain was the perfect choice.
Yeah, no, it worked.
I mean, obviously he was being influenced and directed by an outside force that we didn't know about at that time.
Right.
We knew there was an outside force, and you may have had your speculation while sitting in the theater.
Right.
But I don't think anything could have prepared us for it being Thanos.
No, him just all we knew for sure was Loki showed up, blew up the shield base,
and took the Tesseract.
Yeah. And yeah, no, he had a madman plan that was dastardly and delicious.
Yeah.
And he was still surprised when Cap hit him and it kind of hurt.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and that was another thing. We got the first battle we got to see in the movie was, well, I mean, we got to see them take down Loki together, Cap and
in Berlin of all places.
Yeah, and Cap's intro, I mean, honestly, they did a lot, and I think this is Joss Whedon's influence, right? They did a lot with showing you this is a guy that, for him, it was the 40s yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have that moment when he comes down and he protects the old man in the crowd and he says, you know, the last time I was in Germany and I saw a man standing above everyone else, we ended up disagreeing. Like, of course,
that was
Cap
like
would say something
last
like that, right?
fucking
Like,
week for
that
you.
was yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
Of course, Cap would say something like that. Didn't
Yeah.
we even get the moment later where, you know, he's gonna follow Tony and Thor out of the Quinjet, and
Right.
she says, "You might want to lay low. That guy's basically a god," and he just goes, "There's only one god, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that." Like, even though that seems kind of campy, it's because he's from the 40s. The 40s was he's still a guy from the 1940s.
No, he's that's one of the reasons I love Chris Evans. Like, he's done a real good job of just being Steve Rogers, man from 1942.
Right, and we see him start to acclimate eventually, but this is the first movie for him outside of 1940.
Slow progression
Right,
of him acclimating to the real world.
Yeah, we have to have him feel that
Yeah.
way. And use phrases where you go, "You're a nerd, Steve,"
Right?
You know? Because he is. Right?
That's how we got the whole joke of like, I get that reference.
Yeah,
and even in like Ultron later when he's like upset about people's bad language, like that's definitely a throwback from him being in the 40s.
He's from the 1940s,
and he automatically realizes he fucked up with that.
Sure,
and gets just made fun of for the rest of the film.
Yeah,
but that's absolutely still him. His 1940s morals just being like, don't curse,
right?
Bad.
And obviously, we got our second big recasting with Avengers in Mark Ruffalo as Banner and Hulk.
Yeah,
it's great.
No, he's
fantastic.
He's perfect.
Yeah.
He's perfect. He is a fantastic Banner.
Yeah, I mean the scene with him and Black Widow.
Yeah, I loved his introduction.
Yeah, it really just blows me away. Right when he's questioning her about what's going on.
Right.
And she's starting to tell him things, and he just slams his hands on the table and says, "Stop lying to me." And she thinks he's about to turn into the Hulk, because why wouldn't you?
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's what you would think. This man is a giant monster inside of him that comes out when he gets angry.
Yeah. When he finally does, like, it looked so good.
It really did.
Yeah. It was fantastic.
The transformation was great.
Mm-hmm.
The monster looks good. Like, the CG of the monster looks good. It looks like Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. The fact that that
was the first time we'd seen the
Banner
CG
face
Hulk
in there,
look like the Banner who was playing him. Yeah. And then obviously, you know, Hawkeye and Black Widow become a bigger part of the narrative at this point.
Right.
Which all leads to, you know, our final little space battle between the Chitauri and the Avengers in New York. That's just still the great, being referenced in films that they're making today.
Right.
This was the moment when the entire world changed.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, it's just a fantastically shot scene. The teamwork that they, you know, get into. Because obviously it takes them a while to get to that point. We have many fights between the characters throughout.
Right.
And then eventually they realize this is it. We have to work together. And honestly, I got chills and like visible goosebumps when they're all kind of in that circle. And Tony says, "Call it, Cap," and he starts giving orders, and people are listening. I was just like, "Oh, it's Captain America!" I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Like, look, there they are. This is happening right now. People that are listening, this is happening.
It is. I'll attest to it. I'm touching.
Stop, that tickles. But because I mean, like, just hearing Captain America giving orders, and understanding the best strategy.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody else giving him that opportunity because he is the war man.
Yeah.
He's the tactician.
Yeah, no, he's
the only one among them that's fought in a war.
Well, Black Widow and Hawkeye had, but
they're not leaders.
He's fought in a war as a leader with a Spec Ops group.
Yeah,
like
they're not leaders.
That's exactly what the Howling Commandos was. He knows exactly what he's doing,
and then just turning around, Hulk. Smash.
Yes.
The understanding who the Hulk is, understanding what the Hulk wants, is why Captain America is the leader.
Right.
No one else gets what the Hulk needs and what he wants.
Go smash.
See all those things? Smash. And the Ultimate Universe did that. There's another reference that I think they take right from the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah. They borrow a lot from the Ultimate
Captain America in the Ultimate Universe absolutely knew how to manipulate the Hulk.
Yeah.
There was that moment where the same thing was going on. Chitauri were invading.
Yeah.
And he just points up at the spaceships and he says, "Hulk, those guys up there called you sissy." And Hulk says, "Hulk, not sissy!" And he starts destroying ships.
Yeah, he does.
It's Captain America knows how to manipulate this monster.
Right.
And it works. And,
It is fantastic.
and the comedy, right? Like, Hawkeye being lifted off the ground by Stark. He calls him Legolas. Like,
yeah.
all this, these are just great things,
Yeah.
right? Like, these people are not friends.
No.
At this point, they're not friends.
No, they have to work
But
together.
they have to work together.
Right.
That
That reminds me of Budapest. You and I remember Budapest
very
differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that was another thing, right? Getting to see the human characters
Yeah.
hold their own
Yeah.
with the super-powered
Yeah.
characters. That was great. It works really well.
Yeah.
Hawkeye with his fancy, tech arrows.
Yeah.
And Widow with her little widow stings.
No, the exploding arrow, like, knowing that Loki's going to catch it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to actually hit him, but I've got an idea.
Right. And then Hawkeye becomes Batman with his grapple arrow. Like,
Of course. All we're missing at this point is the actual punching bag arrow. I need a punching bag arrow.
you got to remember, though, that the person who made the punching bag arrow famous was actually Green Arrow.
I'm aware, but I still want one.
Hawkeye did it once.
I still want it. All right? What I wouldn't mind is if we also had a progression to where he goes deaf
Yeah, or blind.
or blind.
Where he's using sound to shoot.
Yeah. I
That's
always
beautiful.
really enjoyed him being deaf.
Yeah.
It was fun for me.
I think Jeremy Renner will probably end up being an actor who will stick around and still be a part of things going forward.
Yeah, he'll definitely phase towards the background a lot, I'm sure.
Right. But I think every now and
he'll
again
still be
pop
around.
up.
Yeah. I mean, we started getting him from that mentor aspect anyways, and like Ultron.
Yeah.
With what's her name?
Yeah, but
Scarlet Witch.
But yeah, and then we get to, the post-credit scene, which, man, as a nerd, and there was plenty of people in the theater, right, who went, who is that?
Right.
And I understand, right? If
Right.
you don't read comics, you're not going to recognize Thanos.
Right.
You're going to be like, who's this weird purple?
But everybody who did.
Oh my god, I crap myself. Like,
Yeah.
Not literally, obviously, figuratively, but like
Right.
seriously, I was blown away. I was like,
Right.
are you kidding? Thanos is pulling the strings?
Right.
That's great.
Right.
And I mean, that at that time, we had no idea what would happen. We had no idea how big it would get, but we knew that we wanted to get to that point. We knew that I want to see Thanos put the Infinity Gauntlet on and get all the
I'll buy
Infinity
as
Stones.
many tickets as possible to make this happen.
And at that point, we didn't even know that we had seen Infinity Stones. Loki's scepter is an Infinity Stone. The Tesseract is an Infinity Stone. We didn't even know that at that point.
Yeah, we had no idea.
We knew that it was coming, and they laid the groundwork beautifully.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that just obviously propelled us into Phase 2 and beyond.
Yep.
Like, it's just...
Phase 1 was fantastic.
Phase 1 is fantastic.
It was...
Without it, we wouldn't have
the real beginning
movies.
of, like, nerddom coming into the light real hard.
Yeah. I mean, it shined more of a light on this than anything had previously.
Yeah.
Spider-Man movies, the X-Men movies were fine, and they did a good job of getting people to come to the movies.
This was a whole new ballpark.
This laid the groundwork, and honestly, we'll get into Phase 2 next week. I want to thank Joe for coming on the show.
I do what I can.
Yeah, and talking about this stuff, because honestly, I'm going to have him back to talk about Phase 2 and Phase 3. And obviously, Phase 3 is not going to, we're not going to be able to go through all of Phase 3, but we're going to lead up to Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
That's the point. We're excited to see this movie. I hope you guys out there are too. If you dig what we're putting down, do me a favor. Head on over to entertainthegeeky.com. Check out the blog posts. Check out the Nerd News stuff. We got both the podcasts there. We also got Matt and Jeff's Board Game Bros podcast. Check those guys out. They really do a good job. If Facebook is more your speed, you can find all that there too. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/entertainmentgeeky. We are on the Twitters as well @entertaingeeky. And if you want to chat and just talk about the show, reach out to me at etgnerdnews@gmail.com. So we're going to see you guys next week. Until then, stay geeky.